What's up to all my freelancers and creatives? This is Nathan with another episode of Freelance Jumpstart TV. And in this episode, we're going to talk about why you should teach what you know. About 1 year ago, I decided to commit to creating this podcast. A podcast in which I can talk about different topics such as digital marketing, different topics such as design, different topics such as working with clients. I wanted to cover everything that pertains really to the life of a freelance creative. The main reason why I felt strongly that this podcast needed to be put out there is I wanted to use the knowledge of what I've learned and teach others. There was so much information that I learned, whether it be in undergrad, whether it was in my graduate studies, whether it was just practical things that I learned on the job and picked up here and there, and even things that I learned that school never taught me in the life of a freelancer. I recognize that if I didn't use or teach on any topic, the information just sat there and does nobody any benefit. Sure, I know it, but I don't always use every bit of information every day. So I wanted to make sure to find and create a platform where I can share and teach on that information. And I was simply just teaching what I knew. I've talked about this on my other podcast, Road to Launch. And on that podcast, I talked about how I read the book Authority by Nathan Allotey. And pretty much the book Authority, it simply covers how do you position yourself as an expert? How do you become an authority online? And really the whole premise of the book is you become an authority by talking about a subject, by teaching on a subject, and over time, you assert yourself to that authority status. Just think about that for a second. How do you become an authority? How do you become an expert? When you really just take a step back and think, most experts are perceived as experts because they taught on a particular subject, or they discovered something and they shared what it is that they discovered. So just looking at that, think about a college professor, right? Now, if I weigh in on a particular topic, let's just say web design. If I weigh in on web design and a top professor at a large and highly esteemed design university weigh in on a similar topic, more than likely people are like, I haven't heard of Nathan, what does he have to say? They're gonna lean towards the professor. Why? Because he teaches other people, and that has a perceived value when you teach others. So really, his word has more authority than mine because he teaches. And that's the whole point that I'm getting to. You don't get perceived as an expert and then you start teaching, but you get perceived as an expert because you teach. So I have a challenge out there for really anybody who is working in the creative space. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you are creating t-shirts or you're making DIY projects, or perhaps you do calligraphy and you draw letters, or you do painting, or you do design, graphic design, web design, development. It really doesn't matter exactly what it is you do, but I have a challenge no matter what that is. And my challenge is that you would take the time to begin teaching what you know. And I don't mean this in an ambiguous sense, teach something. I really mean that you have to sit down and just look at how your business is structured. What are certain things and certain topics your business deals with on a daily basis, and begin teaching on those particular subjects. There are different ways you can teach. Like I said right now, one of the reasons I created this podcast is I wanted to make sure to share what I was learning. So you can teach by making a video. You can teach by starting a podcast. You can teach by writing a blog post. You can teach by putting together a case study. It doesn't matter what the avenue is, even if it's an ebook, but some level of teaching and generating content needs to happen in your business today. If I made teaching sound too easy, it's because it's just something that you have to start, you have to begin. And as you teach, you'll become a better speaker. You'll become better at explaining different concepts. You'll start to have key examples, and you'll start to notice that when you get in client meetings, that you're teaching them and you're walking them through the process of taking an idea and making it a reality. So teaching has multiple benefits for you and your business. Now, hold up just a second. There is a catch. You can't just teach, haphazardly and just try to talk about whatever and think you'll garner everyone's attention. there is a key, and the key is simply, when you teach, make sure what you're teaching on relates to some part of your business. Even if you take the time to teach on something that's not directly related, tie it back into how it relates to your product or service. I don't mean a hard sell in saying that I just taught you something, now buy from me. That's not exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, here's an example. If you're a photographer, right? So you take photos of people. You may want to teach on how capturing family memories helps you remember things better, and it really helps you tell the story of your family. So you may share a story about how you and your brother used to play in the outside yard, and you had fun and you used to play around, and you would get dirty, and then mother would call you in for dinner, and then you're maybe telling this story by showing some old-time family photos. And then at the end of it, you say, I'm so glad that I learned photography because I can bring this to other people. So you didn't teach a skill, but you taught something from your life. But you still tied it into photography and creating memories, and you just so happen to run a photography business. That's what I mean by tying it back into your business. An example of somebody, or should I say some people who do this well, is the website The Apartment. So if you go to theapartment.co, you'll see a website that's run by Femke and it's run by Owen. And they run this website and they provide design as well as development, mainly in the area of websites. And they have a couple of main articles on their site. When you go to their site, you'll see that there are two main articles. There's one article that says, why you need a professionally designed website. And it talks about creating website templates that you can download for free and just implement versus going through the process and getting a professionally designed website. And then they have another article that's talking about coding. And that article covers how coding is never really finished. You can always code, you can always develop, you can always learn more, but coding is a journey. You may start with a certain code set, but later on, as you learn more things as a developer, you may see how you need to improve that code or learn a new code set to improve previous work. So they're teaching on different topics, and both of those topics relate directly to their business. So if someone lands on their website, they see the services they provide, but they can actually learn something. The great thing about you teaching and someone learning is once they learn something on your website, they can take direct action by contacting you, and then you have a new client. Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode. I greatly appreciate it. If there's anything else you didn't hear this. You need to begin teaching today. Don't worry about how you sound. Don't worry about if people are gonna receive you. It's gonna take some time to build up some momentum, and people need to hear your voice. If there's anything I've learned in a year of consistently making videos and podcasting is you have a unique voice, and people need to hear what it is you have to say. They might have heard it before, but you may be the one that teaches them, and it builds trust in them, and then they become a follower, or they join your audience or become a client. And I also talked about that on a previous episode, an early episode called Marketing and Trust. When I did that episode, I hadn't been teaching long, but I had to do research and find certain things to build up that confidence. So if you heard nothing else, just start teaching today, and a lot of other things will fall in place. As always, there are episode notes for this particular episode, so you can go to freelancejumpstart.tv/51 because this is episode 51, and you can read those show notes and go deeper. Well, until the next one, I will catch you later. See ya. Photographer, if you need pictures, call me. That doesn't seem as powerful, because if I need pictures, I can use my phone. I can still go buy a disposable camera if you can find it. There's many ways to take pictures.